G'day, John. How you going?
Yeah, yeah, good. Thanks, Pello. Yep,
Good.
great to be along and have a chat.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on. I was doing a bit of searching the internet for you, like trying to do some research before you came on. And from what I could find, I saw that you actually were a pretty serious rower back in the day, and you actually represented New Zealand at the World Championships.
Yeah, yeah, that's stretching back a long way. Yeah, so when I came to the sport reasonably late, I didn't start rowing until I was 20, but I was pretty fit and pretty strong when I started rowing. I'd already been weight training and doing strength work for 3 years. Got into gym stuff when I was 17, and I'd gone pretty hard, and I was searching for different sports. And a couple of friends of mine had started rowing, and they'd actually won a gold medal in the novice section of the New Zealand champs. So I thought, God, if those clowns can do it, I can do it. So yeah, I started rowing, and yeah, had a really successful first year. We got a silver and a bronze, and in the novice, and just kicked on. And I just loved having a sport that you could just um, plow everything into in terms of intensity. I could just train and train and train and train and train, and just absolutely loved it. And yeah, continued with the strength work, and being quite a skinny little rat, I really enjoyed getting stronger and fitter. And yeah, when at I think I was 23 when I cracked into the New Zealand team. Yep,
Yeah.
in the eights, lightweight eights.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to go to the World Championships, I mean, were you close to going to the Olympics or anything like that?
Well, that was my big goal. I always wanted to be an Olympian and do that, but it wasn't part. It wasn't included in the Olympics back then. So yeah, it has since jumped in and it's jumped back out again. So
Yeah.
this is lightweight rowing. So you
Yeah.
got a crew average of 70 kilo. So yeah, it's at that stage the world champs was the pinnacle. And yeah, so went to those in 1988, I think it was, and to Milan and represented there, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Rowing in New Zealand was quite skint back then. They had no money, and they had this big tour planned for us to get race ready, and that all got quashed. So we pretty much just went straight into Milan and straight into the world champs and
Mm.
thrown in the deep end sort of thing. But we had a really good crew and we did well. We made the final and yeah, chucked it all out there and yeah, did our best. We got fifth in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And when you were rowing, was running part of the training?
It was, yeah. Like well, before I rode, I was running. When I was 18, had a crack at my first marathon. So, but I hadn't joined a club and I didn't know what I was doing. And I got to 30 Ks and just completely almost passed out, just collapsed.
Yeah.
So I came back a year later when I was 19, a whole lot fitter and a whole lot stronger, and exactly the same thing happened. Got to 30 Ks and just died. And but luckily, it was right across the road from a dairy, and there's a friend of mine there, and I said, "Look, go over there and get me some chocolate or something. I'll just eat something."
Yeah.
But I never realised you had to eat stuff in races. So plowed in a couple of bars of chocolate and basically sprinted the last 10 Ks
Right.
to the finish of my first marathon, and well, that first completed marathon, and yeah, I was a complete novice and a complete muppet, but got it done, got it ticked off. It was about 4 hours, I think it took me. Yeah, nothing pretty.
Yeah.
And I think I've done probably 10 or 12 or maybe more than that since, and I got a reasonably good marathon time now. Not that I've done one for a wee while.
Yeah. So was that the focus for a while, just like distances up to the marathon?
Yeah, well, as I said, once I jumped into rowing, it was kind of put on the back burner
Mm.
in terms of chasing PBs and goals, but always ran to keep fit. There's a couple of local mountains in Dunedin where I live that are a good 650 meters high, so I was always tearing up and down those, and you go to training, rowing training. The water's rough, so the first thing you do is you're kicked out the door as a squad. 20 of years go and run up the local mountain and back to the club, and then you sit on a rowing machine and blah blah blah. So yeah, but so never stopped running and training. And there's a few local races I always did, that kept me going right through my 20s. And when I retired from rowing, late 20s, just carried on with the running.
Yeah.
It was pretty full on back then because I was running a business as well. I started a electrical business with a friend of mine, and when I was 22, so I was trying to run a business, trying to train 25 hours a week for rowing, and just had so much on the go. It wasn't funny. I'm not sure how I survived those times.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did the transition go from, I guess you could say, like from jogging to keep fit to actually to running ultras?
Um, well, I've always been overly competitive, so I've never kind of jogged to keep fit. I've always gone out and tried to beat that guy and chase that person, and someone runs past me, I'll have to chase them. It's a bit of yeah, it's a bit annoying, but that's just me.
Yeah.
So yeah, a friend of mine talked me into doing my first. Well, actually, prior to that, I did the Kepler, and 30 years ago, I just looked up my old diaries and found it 1994. So there's a race called the Kepler over there. Beautiful trail. So it's a 60-kilometre ultra. So beautiful race down in town here. So I did that. Yeah, I must have been late 20s or 30 odd when I ticked off that. So that's the first official one. Then I had a crack at a 50k, and a friend of mine talked me into doing a race up in Hanna Springs, beautiful part of the country, which is a double marathon, measured double marathon called the Molesworth Muster.
Yeah.
So quite fast, flattish course. So I shot up there and had a crack at that, and it was quite funny. I thought, oh yeah, I'm really fit. I'll chase the course record, of course. And so I ran it like a marathon, but of course it's two marathons. So I think I went through the marathon, the halfway mark, in about 3:15, and then hit this big bloody hill,
Yeah.
and got halfway up the steep hill, and it was like someone whacked two big kitchen knives into both hamstrings and my left quad. Three major cramps, just all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang. And I just could not move. I just stood there, petrified and stuck to the ground. There's nothing I could do. And the race allows you a support vehicle. So my wife was driving along beside me, but she had buggered off up the hill to wait for me, and I was stuck halfway up. Anyway, eventually I managed to get staggering again, and then I was leading the race by quite a margin, and but for the rest of the race, every 2Ks I would just cramp and seize up, and I think about 10Ks from the finish, the second place getter at the time came just sliding past me, and yeah, that was my first, well, what I probably call a real ultra at a double marathon. But got it done, came back the next year, won it by half an hour, and came back a few years later and knocked a bit more time off. So yeah, that got me kind of hooked pretty badly doing that thing.
Did,
And then
did you ever beat the course record?
and I'd love to go back and do it again. Yeah, no, I got the guy who has the course record is absolutely off the charts. I think it's Jonathan Thurkettle. He did it a long, long time ago, and his course record's about 6.5 hours. Yeah, so it's a pretty quick time. I think my best time was about 7:20.
Right.
But I quickly switched and got hooked in doing the Naseby races, the Great Naseby Water Race. So started off doing those, and they just go a lot longer. So the first one I did was the 80k race, and then they introduced the 100k, and then they introduced the 100 miler. So I just kept sort of working my way up the distances at at Naseby and a few other milers and stuff. And
Yeah.
then never really went back to Molesworth.
Well, that's the thing that stands out to me when I look at your running without without including backyard ultras is that you've won 4 100 milers all in really fast times as well, like all well under 20 hours. And you've won a 200 miler as well in like 43. So you're definitely a fast runner as well.
Yeah, I love running fast. I love doing speed work. Yeah, I never really felt I got anywhere close to my fastest, like 5K or 10K or half, because I kind of just left them on the back burner and haven't really concentrated on them. But I'm probably a pretty good middle distance build. And rowing is very much like a 2K running race in terms of time out there. So I quite like that real fast stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's that which certainly helps me for running real long, because I quite enjoy going back and doing the intervals with groups and doing a lot of speed work and stuff. Yeah, and my first miler was a hell of an experience up in Naseby. Yeah, I was really fit for it, and I was doing ridiculous mileage back then, up to 200-mile weeks. I'd typically do a 200-mile week, and then I'd have a 100K week after that, and then I'd do another 200-mile week. And I'd do a block of kind of 6 weeks of doing these big mileage weeks, and then a quiet week and do a big chunk of that. But I kind of let the speed work go, and I never really, I always thought, okay, well, you can't really do speed work that close to an event. So I kind of hadn't done speed work for ages, and I think that really cost me. I'm sure I could have gone a lot quicker in those races. But yeah, the first miler I did, it's a 10K lapped figure eight course, and 3.5 laps into it, I was running along and I heard this wee pop, and a bone in my left foot had the second metatarsal had broken and gone sideways.
Oh,
And I thought it was a stress fracture at the time. I wasn't too sure, but it was like someone just whacked a kitchen knife in my foot.
yeah.
um, yeah, so I thought I'll just keep on going and see what happens. I can't stop, because I'd done a lot of training. I had a lot of really big group supporting me up there, family and friends. So ran on my heel for 2 or 3 hours. I whacked down a couple of Panadol. Didn't seem to make any difference. Gave it a bit of rub. Nothing much happened. It's just, I reckon I can do another lap. So I ran another lap on my heel. And yeah, after about 3 hours, the funny thing is the pain basically went away. The body must have started whacking in endorphins or whatever it does. And I was able to get full weight back on my forefoot, and essentially just I dropped back into fourth by that stage, and I got back on my front foot, and away I went. And yeah, I ended up getting second, ran 17 hours something, and yeah, I got to the finish, and the foot was fine until I took my shoe off.
Yeah.
And then it blew up like a balloon, of course.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it just fascinated me how the body could just. It was almost like the body sort of said, okay, well, this guy's not stopping, so I better help him out, sort of thing, and we'll just knock the edge off the pain, and that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, most people probably would have stopped. I mean, when they heard the pop and they'd broken their foot.
Yeah. Well, I did consider it, but I
Yeah.
thought I was just a wee bit like a backyard. I was just doing one lap at a time. I'll see if I can get round another one, and
Mm.
yeah, yep, and yeah, then as I said, it's kind of sorted itself out. I thought, okay, this isn't too bad. We'll just keep going, and then it gets really cold at night, and that probably helped as well. And in Naseby, it can go down to -7, that part of New Zealand at that time of the year.
Mm.
So the cold probably helped keep the swelling down.
Yeah. So I saw you ran your first backyard ultra at Pigs in 2022.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what was the idea when you decided to run a backyard ultra?
Well, I'd kind of backed off the running for a few years. I mean, I still ran and competed, but I kind of lost a wee bit of mojo, and this was me climbing back into it.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I've been so busy at work, and as I said, I kind of cooked myself in some 24-hour stuff, and just made a hash of a couple other races, and too much on my plate, I think. But so this is me getting back into it, and the format sounded pretty fascinating. So I thought I'll give that a go.
yeah,
Yeah, and it went pretty well. I just self-crewed for that first night. My wife showed up, I think, about 6 o'clock the next morning, and helped me get a bit further. But yeah, it went pretty good at 28 laps. It's quite a tough course. Like even now, there's only been 5 people who go more than 30 laps on that course
mm,
since it's been running. So it's just a day course only, and it's quite technical. There's a big hill in it, and then a lot of it. There's 5 river crossings in it, so you got wet feet all the time.
yeah.
It's a beautiful bit of forest. You're zigzagging through. But yeah, I was pretty happy with that first one.
Yeah, yeah. Like, and as far as the format goes, were you thinking afterwards like you enjoyed it more than you expected?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, well, it hooks you in, so you're trying to figure out, okay, what actually took me out of the race, and was it all physical, or was there some mental stuff going on there? Was it lack of fuel? Do I need more caffeine? There's so many factors that come into why that was the end of my race, and I thought, okay, well, let's figure this out. I mean, I've been doing that for a long time. Um, with the age thing. I mean, I'm older than a lot of these runners, so I've always had the mindset of, okay, let's see what I can figure out to make the engine go a wee bit quicker for next season, and how do I, whether I need to change my strength work, the deadlifts or whatever else, or add in some extra this, that, and the other. What I need to do to keep improving, and the backyard threw up all the kind of similar sort of questions. Around how do you get further in this format. Yeah.
Are you still working these days, or are you retired?
Um, so we sold an electrical business. I ran that for 35 years. You said it was started when I was 22. We sold that a couple of years ago. So that soaked up a massive amount of time and energy. But over the last 10 or 12 years, um, this is myself and my wife, we've been buying up old beat up student flats and renovating them. So I spent the last decade um, doing up um, doing up houses. Basically, I'm a sparky by trade, but I'll have a crack at pretty much anything. So I just went pretty hard out buying and renovating property. Sometimes we'd have three properties on the go per year, different stages of bringing them back to life. So did that full noise for a decade, just to try and get some really good cash flow out of property, which I've always liked and enjoyed. Most of the houses and stuff we've got are over 100 years old, big old Dunedin properties in the student zone. So did that full noise, and now I basically do all the maintenance on those buildings. So we've got we've got 15 tenancies. A lot of them are just big old houses that have been converted into flats. So
Yeah,
I'll
okay.
I'll fix up all the whiteware and the dishwashers and do all the electrical stuff and have a crack at a bit of building and do basic repairs, bit of plumbing, whatever else comes up.
Yeah, cool.
That's me. So about 80 tenants have got my cell phone number,
Yeah,
so that can be pretty full on.
yeah, yeah. I can
So,
imagine.
but it does give me a lot more flexibility and certainly more free time than I've had for a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you ran your 28 yards at Pigs at the first one, and then I saw you ran Crazies a few months later and did 32. And Sam Harvey was the last one standing at both of those races, right?
Yeah, I did 34 at Crazies, me and
Oh, okay.
Brandon. So we both we shared the assist.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, at Crazies. So yeah, I struggled on that course because it's so cold. It's Christchurch in July is just freezing, and it was below zero right through the night and sitting around zero during the day. You're running in a forest that just doesn't warm up,
Yeah,
and I'm skinny and I hate the cold. So yeah, that course just did my head in, and but hung in there as long as I could. We had an open tent with no heating, and and the gear I had was I hadn't really moved changed much since doing pigs,
yeah,
so it was a bit stripped back, and yeah, we're doing it a lot differently now. Um, but yeah, it was an improvement. So I was happy. I really wanted to crack into that New Zealand SAT team,
yeah,
so that kind of secured my spot.
yeah. It sounds like the races over there, like it doesn't sound like there's any easy courses. They've all got their challenges like hills or freezing cold. I mean, it definitely sounds tough.
Yeah, there's new ones being introduced in the last year that are a lot easier. The course we ran at the SAT Champs is now a race,
Oh,
so they're going
cool.
to have
Yeah,
it every May, the day course of it. So
yeah,
it's a lovely, easy, lakeside um, trot, and there's quite a number of other ones. Timaru's an ice easy course. There's a new one up King's backyard up Northland Way. That's a nice easy one. So I've heard. So yeah, they are starting to trend towards being a wee bit easier. But we don't want to see the tough ones disappear.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's good to have a variation. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. The so as I mentioned, Sam had finished last one standing in both of the first two backyard ultras you did. Had you got to know him very well or at all in those first two races?
Not the first race, no, no. Had yeah, got to know him a wee bit better at Crazies. Yeah, ran with him uh, for a little bit towards the end of the race. So yeah, no, he's an interesting character.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and you mentioned that you wanted to make the New Zealand team, and you did make it the 22 team. Um, and that was your third backyard ultra. So what happened in that race?
Yeah, well, that one was a bit of a nightmare for me. So I'd run the 200-mile race at Naseby 6 weeks prior to that, and my thinking there was I wanted to practice going through 2 nights. So I went to the race directors. I says, look, can I start a day later at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Because the race started on a Wednesday, 8 a.m.
Yeah,
And I was thinking, okay, well, if I do this race, I reckon I'm going to be, 45 hours or 40 something hours. If I do it, I'm going to finish in the middle of the bloody night, a day or two early, because all the other races started on Friday and Saturday. So I went to them and said, look, can I start on the Thursday at 2 p.m.? So I did that. I just by myself. The other race had already been going
yeah,
for a day and a half. But yeah, so I started on that 2 p.m. start. So it got me into the night, and you ran through the first night, no problem. And I was using a lot of caffeine. Had caffeine and everything. Got through to about 25, 26 hours, and I had a big sleep wobble. This is in the maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I said to my wife, look, I just need to lie down for a bit. I lay down on some rocks. She threw a rug on me and gave me 15 minutes. And I swear my energy levels went from being like a 1 or 2 out of 10 to like a 8 or 9 out of 10. Just with that lie down, not sleep, just lie down, reset, got back up, and I was good as gold for the rest of the race. Had no more problems with sleep. Got into that second night, and the hallucinations started to hit me. I was seeing so many goblins and wild dogs, and every little bush that was moving turned into something and started stalking me.
yeah,
And it got to a point where things were just getting bigger and bigger, and I was running up this hill, and I saw this object coming sideways towards me out of the bushes. And I thought, is that a tank? What is that thing? and it was a Stegosaurus. It was a dinosaur, one of those big 3-horn ones. It was just tracking me, jogging up this hill. And I looked back to the track and looked at it again. It was still there. It was there for ages. So yeah, I wasn't freaking out because I knew what they were. But the scariest thing was I had the earthquake hallucination. So the whole ground just went sideways on me a couple of times, and I nearly fell over. But it was keeping me wide awake. The caffeine and the hallucinations were very entertaining. I had a good playlist, so I was smashing out, AC/DC to some good hallucinating, and plowed through that second night. Still moving pretty well, and yeah, got to that 43 and a half hour final result, which was I beat the previous PB by 13 hours or something. I apologise to the previous holder of the PB, but yeah, it was a great race. So I really enjoyed it. But went to the after match function and at the pub at Naseby and caught COVID. So there was a COVID wave that no one knew about going through the whole place, and of course my immunity was in the toilet anyway from the race, and I got back to Dunedin. I had a bit of a dry cough that kind of never went away, and I just went spiraling downhill, and essentially 6 weeks later I still had fluid in my lungs, just couldn't shake it, because I was at such a low point when I caught it. I just couldn't shake it, so I was going to pull out with the SAT team, but when I tried, it was past the 7-day cutoff or whatever it was to pull out, and I didn't even realise that thing existed. So I thought, we'll give it a nudge. Went to the doctor, and he said, "Look, you'll be able to run, but you're not going to run very well." And this is pretty much what happened. So I got through to 24 hours and felt pretty good till about 18 hours, and then it was like someone just switched me off in that SAT Champs that year, and yeah, that knocked me back big time, and all the symptoms come back, and just took me another month to try and shake things out and recover.
Yeah. Where was the course that year in 22?
It was up in Auckland. On basically a sheep farm with a little bit of trail, a little bit of gravel road. It was quite a tough course. It was a lot of it was across grass paddocks, right. Not mowed. It was just a paddock. You're running along, following markers, and part of it was quite puggy and quite soft underfoot. So it was actually quite a workout. There wasn't a lot of elevation in it, but it was actually quite tough.
Yeah. So
yeah. The team did well, but I think the course, was taking its toll on us. But yeah, we still improved as a team up to from 15th to 11th that year. So it was a step forward.
Yeah. And the next year at Dead Cow Gully, that's when I saw you for the first time. And by this stage, Sam had been the last one standing in every backyard ultra you'd run, and was pretty much dominating without really being tested. So, I mean, you must have been excited to go to Dead Cow Gully, not only to go up to test your limits, but also to see how Sam went against those runners like Phil Gore and Harvey Lewis and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally, yeah. Yes, I mean, I was out for redemption to make up for me making such a pig's ear of the SAT Champs. I got to go and do this properly. That was terrible. So so it was an opportunity to get over there and try and get a respectable total on the board. And Sammy had been talking the talk and putting it out there that he was going to win and he's going to do this and he's going to do that, and which is one of his mantras, or one of his methods to get him on top of his game. So that's what he was doing, and it was you're thinking, okay, well, how can this guy get from 46 to to win the damn thing against all those champions.
Yeah.
So it was, it was very cool to be at that race. I mean, you were there. It was, fascinating to see it unfold and see all the carnage. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you definitely had a big improvement. Like you ran a big PB. So, I mean, and it was your fourth backyard ultra. So by that stage, I imagine you would have figured out a few things, and you would have had a pretty good idea of what you needed to do to run that PB. So, what kind of things did you like? What did you do to improve so much in that race?
Uh, yeah, well, I put a lot of thought into pacing and everything, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go out on the day course and I'm going to go as slow as I can because I'll run it a wee bit like I did at Naseby 200 miler. So, which is basically, it's a 10K loop, the Naseby course. So, and I would literally stop for 10 seconds or not stop at all, just jog through and grab my stuff and keep going. So I didn't stop at all. And I never really do in those sort of races. So I thought I'll just do that, but I'll give myself the minimum of time that I need. So my plan was to go somewhere between 54 and 56-minute laps all day, which is what I did. And a few of the boys in the New Zealand team were giving me a bit of grief about sitting at the back of the pack, just skipping along doing nothing. And but it worked really well. And I wasn't too stressed about coming in when the bell was ringing and carrying on. I knew, okay, I just need to grab this and this and just keep going, and that was fine. So and then I would get into the first night, and the plan switched around, and I'd run quite quickly so I can get lots of sleep. So I was doing between 40s and 43s all through that first night, which worked well. I did get nice chunks of rest and sleep, but by the morning I was a wee bit tired. Mm. So okay, well that worked, but I think I can back that down. And so I spent the second day tracking along at the slow pace again. And watching a lot of people. It was quite fascinating right at the back because people would drift back towards you and then just fall off the back.
Right.
Yeah, and I was talking to them all and trying to G them up, and they're all coming, oh, I'm stuffed with what I do, and blah, blah, blah. And you get to talk to these people that are right at the end of the rope, and then next lap they're gone. And I was feeling pretty guilty because I was feeling so great. I was just popping along, listening to my music, and these people would come back and they were just written off, and so I kept going, but I didn't have a foot care plan, and I hadn't been managing my feet. I normally I've been running with no insoles in my shoes, and they're quite hard Lone Peak shoes. I've been using the Ultras, been running in Ultras for years, but so the feet were taking a bit of a hammering. I kind of hadn't noticed, but on that second day, they basically started to split open quite badly. So the big 4-foot pad on both feet had split right open, and I was having some real pain towards the end of that second day. So I got into that second night, and I found the road was so much easier because it didn't have all the variation of the potholes and the hoof prints of the day course, and you don't have all that technicality to watch out for you. And I like running on roads, so I could just get into that flat road, or the road wasn't that flat, but anyway, it was a whole lot flatter than the day course. Yeah. So I locked into that the night course and hooked into Harvey Lewis's group with Tim and Aaron and Ryan, and I think there were 6 of us. And just right, I'll just lock in with these boys, and they were doing the walk run thing. So sat in there with that group of guys and did that all night. So later on the night, it was just me and Sam and Harvey just doing the 3-2-3-2-3-2 sort of scenario, walk run, and it worked really well. And the next morning, I was feeling fresh as a daisy, and I was planning what I was going to do for the third night, and blah blah blah. But as soon as I got back onto that day course, I hadn't realised how bad my feet were. And Yeah, I virtually just couldn't put any pressure on them at all. And as soon as there was a twist or a change in the terrain I was running on, of course, the mats everywhere, it was just like knives jabbing into my feet. It was really bad. I popped my shoes off a couple of times around the course to try and adjust things, and that just made things worse. So hung in there for, I think, about 3 hours with that next day, and it just got me in the end, and yeah, just had to pull the pin, which was disappointing because the muscles are fine, and I know I could have gone through another day or another night, you know.
Yeah.
So 51 was good, but I knew I had another 24 hours of me at least, and then beyond that, who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what did you have a goal at Dead Cow Gully? Because you were really close to making the bigs at large list with that 51. Like two or three more, you might have made it to bigs.
Yeah, no, I never set lap goals. I don't count laps. I just try and get into the zone of the routine of the race and just keep running them one at a time. So no, I didn't have a goal. Yeah, I wasn't really planning to just try and crack into the bigs race. It wasn't really on my radar. I was just really focused about just trying to, you know, get to my physical limit and see where that was. I wasn't too concerned about getting to Tennessee.
Oh.
Yeah.
If you did make it enough to make it to Tennessee, would have you gone?
Um, yeah, 50-50. Yes, we would have to have a really good chat about it, myself and Karen, and see if that's something we could fit in.
Yeah.
Don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. The day it was pretty sunny. Like when that sun came out, it was pretty hot, I thought. And I didn't know you had the issue with the feet. I just thought it must have just got too hot at the end. But you were okay with the heat?
I'm good with the heat. Yeah, no, doesn't worry me. At the set champs we just had recently, there was a lot of moans and groans about the heat. I hardly noticed it. I'm fine. Um, yeah, I'm being scrawny build. I dissipate the heat pretty well, and don't know. The heat's never really bothered me. As I said, I hate the cold. I'm a wuss in the cold, but the heat, quite enjoy it actually. I'd love to go and do bad water or Desaba or something and see how I go in a real hot climate. But yeah, I've done races over here, and well, one of those Molesworth races, it was 35 degrees, and yeah, I could still trot along, not too bad in that. So the heat has never really bothered me.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as courses go, was Dead Cow Gully like the flattest and easiest course you'd done compared to all the other ones in New Zealand?
Yeah, it was. It was so much easier. Definitely, yeah, and yeah, I found it. Yeah, it suits me. So I'm still negotiating with Karen, but we're trying to possibly get back there for next year.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Tim sent me a congratulatory message after the set champs, and I asked him if he had room for one more, and so yeah, he can squeeze us in.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I'd love to get back over there next year when everything hits the fan. And there's so many great runners there. It's going to be off the charts. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's going to be.
but yeah, I love that course, and it does suit me. Those sort of easy, fast courses. I'm a bit of a flatliner.
Yeah.
Put a hill in front of me, and I struggle. I struggle on all that. There's lots of hilly, tough races over here with heaps of dirt, and I'm pretty shit at them all.
Right.
I must admit. But I do a few of them just because I need to. But yeah, I'm not much. I'm a good downhill runner. I can smash out a downhill and keep everyone pretty honest on the downhill. But by the time I get to the top, they're all bloody 20 minutes ahead of me.
I see.
Yeah.
And did you stick around for the whole race at Dead Cow Gully?
Yeah, I went and got some sleep and then came back. So we were there at the final 6 hours, I think, to see Phil do the damage, and Sam hanging in there with the skin of his teeth, and the two of them, uh, get it done. It was amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
would have been.
just ability to go so deep. Yeah, Sam certainly impressed me uh, on that day, and yeah, Phil was just on fire. He
Yeah,
just didn't seem to be affecting him too much, and yeah,
mm,
yeah, he was pretty yeah, very cool to watch. Yeah, those boys
yeah, yeah.
doing business at the end.
So fast forwarding to the Sat Champs that just happened, I mean, I got the impression that the New Zealand team were in a pretty similar situation to the Aussies, where the runners understood the concept this time around a bit better than a couple of years ago, and runners were really understood how to make the team, and they were really like pushing to make the team as well. So, um, like, what was the dynamic like this year compared to 2 years ago? Like the team dynamic?
Yeah, we I was the team captain, so we had a bit of chat on online about trying to run as a team, and we had some team goals. Um, the main goal was trying to get the whole team through to the second morning, or through to basically um, about 50 hours. Was the plan was to try and you know get us all through to that. I think it was Tuesday morning. That's right, which would have given us 53 hours. So it was a pretty lofty goal to have, and that would have given, I think, 2/3 or 3/4 of the team PBs.
Yeah,
So we hung in there for as long as we could, and gave the Belgians a bit of a scare maybe at 37, 38 laps when we're tied at the front. Yeah, and then then we started to lose a few in the middle there. But yeah, it was a really good team, really tough, hardy bunch of of runners. Quite a lot of inexperience in backyard, but very experienced in other formats, and just some really tough people with the ability to go deep and battle their way for hours and hours and hours. There was people having all sorts of um, issues as you do, and yeah, but they quite often 24 hours later they're still there, just battling. It was cool to see.
yeah. And it looked like the course. I mean, I thought it was really cool how like the course was. You scouted a course to find the best one possible, conducive to a high total. Like it sounded like the course was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, Chris Taylor and Steve Tripp found that course in Oda Matata. It's a lovely part of the world, just a small. It's a little village that used to be. It was built for when they built the big dam up there 60 odd years ago. So it's a lovely little touristy sort of local holiday place with a nice lake, and the trees are all big and beautiful now. So a lot of tree cover on the day course, and it's when you leave the starting corral, you drop down about 20 meters, and then most of the course is actually down at lake level. So it's actually sheltered from the wind as well.
Mm.
So you pop back up about 5.5 k's later, and but yeah, you're quite hidden from the wind. So there was a wee bit of wind coming from time to time. Very beautiful zigzaggy mixed surface trail. Yeah, and yeah, you could. Yeah, I really loved that day course. Yeah, the night course was harder, a bit more boring, a bit harder underfoot, a bit more predictable. But still, compared to other courses, it was pretty easy. Just a big out and back on the night course. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And do you find it good, like with that kind of course, like psychologically having the night course and like switching to the night course, then switching back to the day? Like, do you just find that switch helps the runners mentally?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, the fact that the night course felt harder because of the surface was harder underfoot. I think a lot of us would have preferred just to stay on the day course.
Right.
But the night course, we're only out on the night course for was it 10 hours? Yeah, so we stayed on the day course till about 9 o'clock at night, and so it was a shorter amount of time on the night course. And I do think you're correct in saying that. Yeah, just having that small goal of, okay, we're going to change from day to night or night to day in so many hours, just gives you something to look forward to and count down to
Yeah.
mentally. Yep.
Yeah. And how do you set up your race kit?
Good question. Yeah, well, you need to speak to Karen. She's the guru. We've fine tuned it over the years, so we've got a really good setup now. And so I hate the cold, so I bought an old gas heater online a year or two back. So we've used that for the last few races, and I've lent it to a few friends, and it's just such a nice nice old heater, and it just does a great job. It's not too fierce.
Yeah.
Quite often I'll come back from doing a lap and there's like 10 people in our gazebo because it's really warm.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we've got a stretcher and a cot bed sort of option. It's the first time I've used it actually properly, having a bed to lie down instead of just a layback chair.
Yeah.
Couple of tables, just lots of bench surface space. Yeah, and all the food was kind of planned out and just fine tuned over the last number of races. I quite often just go, roughly 50% liquid food, and like Tarwin and Octane, and used to use a bit of Mortine, so I'll switch from the liquid back to the solid, to the liquid back to the solid, and just when I do the milers in the 24-hour races, I'll just go liquid only because it's faster in those speed races. So, but yeah, for the backyards, just mixing in a lot more solid food seems to work a bit better. Although you got more toilet stops, which is a bit annoying. But with when you go liquid only, you certainly don't need to go to do your number twos quite so often.
Yeah. Yeah, with those mattresses or the beds, like a lot of the Australian team members, they had beds in their part of their kit for the first time, and it did seem like a game changer. A lot of them hadn't had a mattress before, but they all used it. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I found just lying down in a normal sleeping position. I'm a side sleeper, and I've never actually gone to sleep in a race before, but according to my crew, I did actually sleep this time around. I was 50-50 whether I did or not, but they reckon I was snoring, so it must have helped. And it just getting into that lie down position, popping your shoes off, and it's certainly a lot easier to get into that zone. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I saw Jeremy Pelvin posted a video of some of the highlights of his race, and it looked like he was set up in an actual room, with a couch and everything.
Yeah, I don't think that was his intention. But when he got to the venue, he'd booked a room that was literally 10 meters from the corral. So this, as you know, our setup, the corral was outside the doors of the pub. It's not just a pub, it's a big accommodation block with motel units and all sorts as well. So Jeremy had essentially a motel unit, the closest one at hand sort of thing. So he could just, walk straight in there, and he's 10 meters from the corral, so why not? A couple of other guys had rooms that were very handy as well, and we had access to showers. There was even a bath there that one of my teammates used a few times.
Right.
So the setup was just ridiculously convenient. We had power to all the gazebos, Paul Maxwell, who I crewed recently, and myself were both Sparkies. So we sort of made sure everyone had power. And yeah, the setup was just crazy good in
Yeah.
that regard. Pubs got good food and cold beer, and yeah, beer garden out the front.
Yeah, perfect. I
Yeah,
saw Maren from Belgium. He actually had a beer before he started a yard. Did any of the New Zealanders do that?
didn't notice it. Don't know. Um, I think it was Jupp used to do that. A guy who's a local backyarder and racer. Certainly didn't do him any harm, and I know it wouldn't do me any harm.
Yeah,
I'd take the edge off a few niggles. Uh, yeah, I didn't notice anyone, but it wouldn't surprise me. And yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I drink quite a lot of beer, and it's just mainly water with a wee bit of carbs and a tiny bit of alcohol in it. So yeah, why not?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And did you go, or do you write out a very detailed race plan, like an hour by hour plan?
yeah, yeah. I've got a book. I've designed a book. So I heard about Phil Gore's spreadsheet, and I thought, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And started off with a wee notebook, but I've since changed that to a oh, here we go. Here's one here. See, A5. So I'm just flicking through pages and showing Pato my book. So
Awesome.
it's got all the food and drink and head torches and sleep penciled in, and predicted lap times, and it's all numbered, and you can also write, well, anything you like in it really, and it's great for the really good for the crew, probably more for the crew than the runner, so they can to see what's happening in the next lap. Easy for handovers, easy for other crew coming in to replace. They can just see what's happened and what we're planning in advance. And yeah, it's really good. So I've done that for the last 4 races, I think.
Yeah, then that would be good to like read after the race as well, and like you might be able to figure like and fine tune plans for the future as
Definitely.
well.
Yeah. No, I've got them all. I said going back through the last number of races, and it just allows you to read back, especially if the crew put little notes in there regarding sock changes, and one of the things I do in the book is I put a score out of 10. So this is for the crew to ask me how my engine's feeling, and my muscles. So that's basically my yeah, whatever drives me forward. What am I out of 10? So at the start of the race, I'm a 10 out of 10. I might be having a low, or might have some real sore calf muscles or something. So we'll say, okay, well, that's gone down to a 5, and
Yeah.
and that gives them an opportunity to address that. I initially I'm quite introverted, and that I would get into a zone where I'm just sort of internalizing everything and not telling my crew stuff. So I said, how can I fix that? So I gave them these 4 questions that they have to ask me every lap. So and the next one's around joints, feet, ligaments. I get quite sore feet. I've got arthritis in my feet, so they get quite inflamed. So I've got to keep topical rubs and a bit of stuff to knock those back. Energy level, how's my energy level? Start of the race, of course, 10 out of 10, but as you go through, if your energy levels are tracking downwards, if you get down to the danger zone of 3 or 4 out of 10, you're on a slippery slope. So the crew needs to sort of figure out a way to get that energy back up again. And the big question, which probably should be number one, is where your head's at.
Mm.
Are you still in a positive space? Are you still smiling? Or are you teetering on a black hole, staring down a horrible spiral of whatever, and imagining what's going to happen in 5 laps time when you completely fall to bits. So that headspace question is hugely important, because it's the beginning of the end, as you know. When your head gets into that bad spiral, it's very hard to get it back out again.
Yeah.
yeah. So asking that question every lap is well, yeah, helpful, very helpful.
Yeah. And that's another good thing about having that all written down is that you can look back and see, oh, I was a three. How did I get improved from the three and get back up to a seven or an eight?
That's right, exactly right. Yeah, yeah. Sir Paul Maxwell, who I crewed last week at Arrowtown,
Yeah.
um, he 95% of the time stayed in a really positive zone. He's such a positive, smiley guy. Anyway, there was a few times where he came in, he was kind of grim faced and almost swearing at himself and a bit angry about how I think there was only one other runner remaining at the time. How this other runner had sort of drifted away from him through a part of the race, and he was kind of really concerned about the other runner's pace. But he just ran a 51-minute lap. His pace, Paul's pace, was spot on, but he got himself into a wee sort of bad headspace spiral. So we chatted to him and managed to get him back and get him smiling again and get him positive again. In the next lap, he was back on track. So very impressed, with people or someone who could do that. Yeah. So he managed to reset himself and yeah, push through and take the win.
Yeah, awesome. So Australia did actually have some pretty miserable weather for a portion of their race. Did you have to have any issues with the weather during the New Zealand leg?
We struck quite a bit of wind. As I said, there was heat during the day, which didn't bother me, but yeah, it certainly took its toll on quite a few of the runners. The sun is pretty intense over here. We got rid of all the ozone, so yeah, it's full on. So you got to wear a lot of sunblock, and you can get fried pretty quickly. And yeah, so that the heat certainly took its toll. But yeah, I found the wind. We got running into a headwind for quite a number of laps, and yeah, that was pretty tough. We didn't really have any rain, or well as tiny little bursts of rain here and there, and it didn't go too cold at night. So really, just those sun and wind issues. But yeah, nothing really to moan about.
Yeah.
Great scheme of things compared to what other countries would have been putting up with.
Mm. Now, you did mention that New Zealand didn't lose a runner till after the 38th yard, which was the second best result across all the countries after Belgium. So, I mean, you did mention that you had a strategy to keep all your runners in for as long as possible. So what were the strategies that you used to make sure that happened?
Well, we encouraged everyone to just talk to each other and tell their crew or fellow runners early as possible if they were having issues, physical, mental, whatever. Just really communicate as much as possible and get to know everyone early. Like, we didn't know everyone, so so it was great to see so much chat going on that first day, and just people getting to know their teammates. So as we got deeper into the race, there was a lot of support of those who were starting to struggle or having stomach issues or heat issues. Yes, so it was really good to see the support between runners. Young Sammy boy was stepping up and really helping a lot of runners and using his knowledge, because he's done 14 of these damn things now. He had such a depth of knowledge, so that was great to see him sharing that and carrying out a wee bit of physio on a few people and chatting but yeah, the whole squad were sort of contributing to that sort of mindset, and it certainly worked. Yeah, it would have been nice to for it to work for another day and take the full crew a bit deeper. But I think we really squeezed every ounce out of the team. And yeah, it's looking pretty positive for the future over here. We've got a whole just at the Arrowtown race. There's no one there from the New Zealand team, so there's a whole layer of new runners coming through. Pushing into the 40s and hitting goals and running. There's so many PBs run. At Arrowtown, so it was of the next sort of next runners coming through. Yeah,
Yeah, that was really impressive to see. And you mentioned talking amongst the runners. I can imagine how important that would be, especially when they get back to camp and they start talking to their crew about who might need help, and then the crew can talk to each other and help. The crew can all help each other and help the runners as well.
yeah. We had amazing crews up there, experienced runners, a lot of them themselves, and just crew that had just know the format inside out. So you had crews talking to crews and helping, yeah, as you said, helping their runners or the oppositions, or not oppositions, teammates, runners. There's a lot of knowledge sharing, between crew and Mirren, who's Sam's mum crew. Yeah, she was, sharing all her knowledge, and and it was really really good to see just the crews working together, not just runners. It was really 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 cool.
Yeah. So you ran 72 yards, which beat your previous best by 21, but there were some other big PBs run by your teammates as well. But what were some of the outstanding performances that stood out to you on the New Zealand team?
Um, yeah, well, Glenn Tomlinson, who finished 2 or 3 hours behind me, he did a huge PB. I think it was 24 or 28 lap PB.
Yeah, 28. 28.
28, yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I ran with him at Arrowtown last year, and he had matchsticks in his eyes to try and keep his eyes open. The sleep devils had got him, and I remember jogging along with him, and he was just saying, "Hey, I'm falling asleep, but I'm still running, and where am I?" And he was all confused, and he was zigging and zagging through the forest, and I was a bit worried to leave him, but I had to kind of leave him because we were running so slow, and I was quite worried he was going to run into the Arrowtown River and float past me at some point. But he didn't. He ran into a tree and pretty much almost knocked himself out, sat under this tree at Arrowtown, and by the time he'd come to, he'd staggered, managed to work himself back to the wee village, and that was his race. So this kind of happened to him like 24 hours later or 28 hours later, at the Sat Champs. So he'd battled and battled. So he was trying sprinting off the line to keep himself awake. He was, for 2 or 3 hours, he would just sprint for as long as he could, and then sort of drop into a jog, and then just keep it moving. So that seemed to work for him until it didn't. And I remember coming across. I was just cruising along at the back, and so it's Sam and me and Glenn, and I saw in the distance this is night time, and a couple of headlights and people just standing on the track, and I caught up with them, and Glenn had his hands on his knees, and he was basically asleep, almost standing up, and Sam was kind of yelling something into his ear, trying to bring him back to life, and he kind of collapsed off the side of the track, and says, "No, I'm done. I'm that's me. I'm gone." And I knew he was, because I'd seen him like that before. There's no bringing him back. So Sam was pretty determined to get him moving again, but we couldn't, so we had to leave him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he battled, and he did amazingly well to go that well. Young Caleb, he had been battling for a day and a half with injury, and he got into the 61 laps, I think. Another huge PB for him. He was, very impressive, because he'd been battling injury for a long time. There's so many Jeremy and Simon, those guys, yeah, ran
Yeah,
huge PBs, and they're all battling some issue at some point, and just managed to fight their way through and take themselves, to the brink.
yeah.
Yeah,
One runner who a lot of people are interested in is Carl Reed because he runs his loops so fast. Of all the runners around the world who did 48 or more, he averaged by far the fastest loops. So, did he walk any of the course at all? Or does he just run the whole way?
yeah, I think he runs the whole. Yeah, I chased him a couple of times just to see what it was like.
Yeah,
And yeah, he was running the whole thing. Yeah, so yeah, fascinating guy. Tough as nails, and like I think he was a professional Ironman for 8 years. So physically, you look at them and you go, holy shit! Look at the legs on that guy,
yeah, yeah,
and he's just floats along. He's got huge amounts of power, and I think with Carl, he can't go down a gear in terms of his running speed, so he'll find it way too clunky for him because of his background. He's just used to running, pretty hard and fast, and he's probably going at his slowest already. Yes, I think trying to drop down into a jog would be detrimental. But I think, yeah, for Carl in the future, introducing those walk breaks and just do his run at his pace. But hey, let's just inject 5 minutes of little walk breaks will get him a lot deeper. But of course, he ran a pretty good PB at 48. Yeah, but it did take its toll, I think, because he wasn't walking. So yeah, so when he really nails the format, yeah, look out,
yeah,
because he's pretty good.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
we talked before about your sporting background as a rower for New Zealand and stuff like that. And rowing is a team sport. So were you able to draw on your previous experiences as a team rower and bring that over to the New Zealand team as the team captain?
Yeah. I was kind of in that role in my later years in rowing, in Dunedin. I was yeah, kind of I would row 8 oared, so you got 8 guys in a coxswain in a rowing boat. So I was one of the more experienced guys towards the end. There was two of us in the New Zealand um, rowing team from our city in Dunedin. So me and Dave would basically help motivate, help keep everyone else on track, and hand out as many tips and things as we could, and lead a lot of the training. I would typically stroke the boat for the whole season, through all the training camps and through all the big long 2 hour rows. And then when we came to racing, Fred Strawn, our coach, would shift me down the boat more into the engine room to take advantage of us more experienced, stronger guys. So and as I said, I'm a bit of an introvert, so I really got to force myself to get into that role and try and really reach out and communicate a bit more. But I think it worked reasonably well. As I said, Sammy really stepped up and into a co-captain role maybe at the SAT champs, but it's a very individual sport, and a lot of us are pretty very, very driven, and they certainly don't need a lot of motivating. It's more just sharing issues or remedies, I should say, if people are having troubles, and that certainly did happen. There was no need to be trying to gee everyone up with pep talks and stuff. I'm sure I would have got abused. By doing we up holding hands and having we sing-alongs.
Yeah. So you did 72 hours, and 72 hours is a long time. So, I mean, it would be hard to have a positive mindset that whole time. So, did you have any struggles mentally during the race?
Um, uh, to be honest, no. Um, it was what derailed me was I'd never gone into the third. Well, we started, of course, like the Aussie team. We started at 1 a.m. on the
Mm,
Sunday, and it was kind of 1 a.m. on the Wednesday when I pulled the pin.
mm,
Um, so I'd never gone into that third sort of night, which almost felt like a fourth night. So my thinking was, okay, well, we'll just have no caffeine at night so I can get some sleep, just whacking a bit of caffeine during the day. But it turns out I needed to be caffeinated going into those later nights just to um, keep me awake, basically, and not worry about disrupting sleep because you're going to sleep anyway if you're that knackered.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that was a learning is to make sure I'm topping up on the caffeine and just keeping alert. And yeah, because once I got the sleep wobbles, hit me pretty hard. I wasn't too far behind Glenn in that regard. And I was kind of standing up, swaying, and just the brain was trying to shut me down
yeah,
in those last 2 or 3 hours. So I was taking a leaf out of Glenn's book and kind of almost sprinting the first half of the night course out to the turnaround, and then I'd kind of jog back with Sam. But yeah, I just couldn't get my brain back on track. Yeah, which was a bit unfortunate. Whacked in a lot of caffeine, but it kind of didn't seem to have much of an effect once I'd got too deep and got the wobbles.
yeah. And what about physically? Were you okay physically for the whole 72 hours?
Yeah, I was still running. I think my last lap was 47. So yeah, the calves were the only thing that really felt on the brink. Yeah, my calves were very, very sore and swollen, and I'd kind of driven into that wind a bit hard. I feel in hindsight, and kind of destroyed the calf muscles. But the drivers, the hammies were good. Quads were fine. I've had a lot of problems with my quads in the past, but I've done a lot of weight training. I do a lot of powerlifting and strength work as part of my normal program. So, but I never really bothered with calves,
Mm.
but I will now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the muscles are great. And, the next day I was bouncing around pretty normal and back to training pretty quickly. I'm still you've got that deep tiredness, but physically the muscles were fine. I'd in my earlier races this year, I'd done Pig's Backyard, but also I'd done the Asia Oceania 24-hour track race.
Yeah.
Had the privilege of chasing Mr. Gore around for a few laps. Well, he chased me for a while, and then he ran past me, and I chased him. But yeah, in that race, I took that right to the brink and destroyed every muscle fiber in my lower body. So that took me a good 6 weeks to recover from that. Everything was destroyed. Yeah, quads, hammies, glutes, calves. I sort of squeezed every ounce out of me in that one. And at Pigs, I was pretty destroyed as well because for the Pigs race, which was a month, 6 weeks prior to the Asia Oceania, I hadn't done any hill work because I broke both my big toes, which was weird. I broke the left one in December, and then a month later, I broke the right one.
Right.
And I'd carried on training, but I couldn't do any hill work because I couldn't drive off my toes. And then I got a bout of really bad tendonitis in my right ankle. And so I'd been avoiding hills and just doing flat stuff only. And the plan was, okay, I'm not going to worry about pigs. I'm just going to train for the 24-hour track race. So coming into pigs, I was way underdone for hill climbing, which got me in the end. But so yeah, at the pigs race, I completely drained the tank. The muscles were blown to bits,
Mm.
and again, I which was a good thing because that's what you're trying to do in these backyards. I was pretty happy to be able to get myself to that physical brink. And again, I did that six weeks later at the track race. So pretty chuffed to be able to get the brain to take the body to those limits. But yeah, this time around, I carried on and did, once I recovered, more strength work, and yeah, the Sat Champs just passed. The muscles come up really, really good and flying, and yeah, happy.
Yeah, I mean, look, you did mention that you ran your last loop in 47 minutes, and just looking at that time on its own, like you would think that you would be able to go out and do another one. So did you actually start 73, or what happened?
Yeah, I did. Yep. It's a bit hazy, to be honest, because I was kind of almost asleep.
Yeah.
At the corral, there's a corral, and then like 5 meters away from the corral, the start line, there's a power pole right in the middle of the track, and I nearly ran into that damn power pole, God knows how many times. But yeah, it's once I got going on that last lap, 73. Well, I didn't really get going. I shot out, and I found I'm not sure if the brain had just says, right, that's it. We're just going to turn you off now. The calves I just couldn't get the calves to push me forward, or it just didn't work. I ended up running down the white line of the highway, and I could see Sam just drifting away from me. His head torch, he was up ahead, and he just got further and further and further away. And I thought, okay, well, I've just got to get some pace going here, because I'm, and I was just crawling and kind of zigzagging a wee bit. So I kept pushing for I think I went out about 2 kilometres, and I was going so slow, and I was just, hardly moving at all. And just looked at my watch, and I said, man, I knew I was never going to make the turnaround and get back again in time. So just called it and walked back. Sneaked in the back of the timing tent, and they're all asleep. Trying to wake up Sean Collins, the race director. I was kicking him, and wake up, Sean.
Yeah.
DNF. And he couldn't wake him.
Really?
Went into my own tent, and they're all there. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was me. It was a bit disappointing. Because physically, I knew I had more, but yep.
Yeah. So going into the Sat Champs, a lot of people were saying Australia are going to go close to winning. Was there much talk over there about where people thought New Zealand were going to finish?
Well, we knew we were going to improve dramatically because we had such a strong team and a great course. And we talked about this before the event, that, hey, we've got the pick of courses. We believe that course was really good and really fast, and most of all the runners on the team had cut their teeth on much harder courses, and still running good times, good PBs. So coming to this thing, we knew there's a good chance that every one of us would step up further. So yeah, we certainly liked our chances, and talked about our neighbours, you fellas, about pushing the Australian team, because you guys are a bit of a benchmark now. So just over the ditch. So it was awesome to have Australia doing so well in recent times, and having you guys to chase and benchmark ourselves against. And I think we did pretty well.
Yeah. Look, I thought you did really well, and it's such a big improvement on the one prior. And you came 6th overall, which is awesome. Did you have a bit of a celebration afterwards as a team?
Yeah, of course, we went to the pub, which is just there. Yeah, it was good. The next day, the whole crew was there, and everyone was still around. I think Carl might have disappeared, but yeah, we had a great little catch up and a few beers and a debrief
Yeah,
and a few photos and
yeah,
just relaxed and yeah, compared war stories.
yeah, yeah.
Of course, we're still watching the race because it's still happening.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, is there who is there anyone who's been a big influence, or one particular person who's been the biggest influence on your running journey?
Yeah, good question. Um, yeah, I find Giannis Chorus quite fascinating.
Yeah, yeah,
He's yeah, I've sort of followed and read a lot about his racing and especially in Australia and smashing out all his records in the day and he's still got a few.
mm,
Although yeah, Alexander Sorokin is a pretty special, well, very special guy these days, and he's got 5 world records, I think,
mm,
currently, and he's sort of streets ahead. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Those two guys certainly in the long ultra stuff are yeah, major people that I look up to, and Phil Gore, of course. I mean, yeah, I met Phil and had a couple of chats to Phil, and he's such a what's the word? Yeah, well, it's probably not just one word, but he's locked and loaded, and he's very methodical, and he's tough as nails. So I certainly respect that. The guy just manages to smash out these big totals, and mentally it doesn't seem to be a problem for him. So that's what trips most people over is the mental side. But yeah, Phil, he's got Gemma there to keep him smiling. So yeah, had a lot of respect for Mr. Gore.
yeah, yeah. Very good. So what backyard ultras do you have planned over the next 12 months?
Well, probably the only thing that I'd really want to do is the Dead Cow.
Yeah,
Yep. Um, um, I am focusing a bit on the 24-hour stuff, so I'm going to come over to Canberra in March and chase the Australians around the 400-metre track again.
yeah,
So I think it's the Aussie Nationals. So hopefully yeah, I'd like to. I've got unfinished business in that 24-hour format. I know I can do a lot better than that.
yeah,
I think they almost complement each other, the backyards, and builds a massive amount of endurance and base, and then you just need to put a whole lot of speed on top of that, and you can do both. So yeah, you're pretty keen to get that done in March, and then Dead Cow, and then we'll see. The end of the year is a wee bit up in the air.
mm,
There's a couple of options, but depends on how races go.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't like to do too many backyards. I like mixing up milers, 100 milers. Really enjoy
mm,
that sort of distance. So yeah, and I'm trying to do a lot more shorter, faster racing to really get the speed going again.
yeah, yeah. Cool. And you may know, John, that I really like asking my guests for their 3 backyard ultra tips. What are your 3 backyard ultra tips?
Well, good question. Yeah. I wrote a couple of things down because I knew you were going to ask me this. Yeah. Doing a very slow, easy lap early on, I think is quite helpful. Just go and run a 56 or even a 58 in those early laps, just to get a real feel for how slow you can go if you need to.
Yeah,
Gives you that benchmark later in the race. You can think back to that real slow lap. I've got that to fall back on.
Yeah.
Mentally, I think it's quite helpful.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah. Park the ego.
Mm.
That's yeah. That's a pretty important one. If your lap pace is being set by the size of your ego, other runners can control you and pull your chain, sort of thing. So I think just taking the ego out of it, which is not easy for a lot of runners. So being able to run at the back of the pack, doing slow laps, is a challenge at times, and that's I've struggled with it, and this format certainly challenges me because all my other races are just how fast can you get from A to B. So jumping into this format and making running slowly an advantage is quite hard to do. So, but yeah, park that ego and just stay on the lap, tick them off one at a time. Yeah. Yep. Don't worry about those boys and girls running hot laps. Yeah. What else? Elastic laces. I've tried those. Really good. The triathlon guys use them a lot. Just those, stretchy laces.
Oh, yep. They're really good, aren't they?
Yeah. So you can come in and just flick it's not so much just for the shoe changes, it's just popping your shoes off just to give your feet cool down. So yeah, I found those really good. There's lots of other things you could put on my list. I'll throw out your old favourites, your old shoes. I mean, your old shoes, throw them out. I mean, especially if you're like me. I'm not the youngest runner out there now, so the knee tolerances aren't as good as they used to be. So I find, if a pair of shoes are worn to a point and it's just throwing my knee off slightly, that can cause havoc. And so looking after the feet, the shoes is extremely important, just to keep your knees running straight, your hips and everything aligned. And old bad shoes are the number one culprit of sore knees.
Very good. That was awesome. Thanks heaps for coming on. I know that performance, 72 hours at Sat Champs, was so good to see. And I know that you are an inspiration for a lot of people because you just keep improving. And I mean, I understand you turned 60 in just a couple of days, don't you?
Yeah. I don't really like focusing too much on on getting older, but it's a fact, and I do try and block out any negativity around people talking about age and okay, well, between 50 and 60, you're going to lose this much, and that's going to happen, and this is going to get worse, and your ligaments are going to get short, and blah blah blah. Bullshit. Come on, they haven't done testing on ultra athletes. A lot of that's just general testing on general populations and people who aren't out there smashing out stuff. And so, and everyone's different. So I'm pretty careful about creating a mindset of improvement. So I know my next backyard will be better than the one I've just done. Because I know I can get stronger in the gym. Speed work's still working, the body's still responding, so I can get faster as well in the intervals. My endurance is good, it's rock solid. And then there's so many other little small improvements, around rest and recovery and fueling and putting all those 10, 15, 20 things together and you will keep improving. And it's just keeping that mindset of improvement as you get older. I haven't decided that I'm going to run slower. so I'm not going to run slower. It's a mental decision that I've made, and because I don't feel too much different to
Yeah.
what I did, you know, 30 years ago. Physically, I'm the same weight. Um, yeah, I look after the strength, eat well, make sure, the body's changing. I know that. So, listen to your body, and I make sure I get enough protein in, especially after hard training. You've got to get plenty of protein or whatever way. I'm not a vegan or just, make sure I get plenty of good fuel, good positive stuff. Rest and recovery is real important as well, and just not trying to train for the sake of training. I don't do junk miles these days. I'm probably doing about almost half the mileage I used to do, but with better results. And ran a 100-mile PB last year, 200-mile. I just ran a backyard PB. I'm still smashing out PBs. And, got no intention not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, want to get back into the marathon and see if I can improve that. So, and just keep yourself in that improving sort of mindset. And if you can do an extra couple of deadlifts, that's going to flow into your running at some point, and just those small improvements all add up. And look after yourself. Have a nice big mental rest after these crazy races. That's pretty important.
Yeah.
So the brain gets a bit of a smashing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Look, that's awesome, John. Hopefully you do come to Dead Cow Gully next year, because I'll be there, and I'd love to be able to see you again in person.
Yeah, it'd be good to run a few laps and chat. Yeah, sounds good. No, it's going to be pretty special, that race.
Yeah. Sure is. Yeah. Well, don't go anywhere. I'll hit stop on record. But thanks again, and we'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Cheers, Pato.
Thanks, John.